Adrian Wojnarowski with us. What can you tell us, Woj?
Matt, worst possible news for the Warriors. Klay Thompson has suffered a full tear of his right Achilles. He will miss the entire season. He missed last season with an ACL tear in his left knee. This is his right Achilles, but he had the imaging today in Southern California. And Klay Thompson, now you're looking at a 8 to 10 month rehab. He will miss the entire season.
And again, this happened when he was playing a pickup game in Southern California. When you look, Woj, because we were just talking about it during the commercial break, this franchise was as high as you could get for 4 or 5 years when they were winning titles. Now what for the Warriors and Klay?
Yeah, this was a team that thought they were going to go right back into contention in the Western Conference. Picked up Andrew Wiggins at the trade deadline last year, drafted James Wiseman last night. They have some remedies financially that they can go out and do some things in the next week, but you're not replacing Klay Thompson. They have a $17 million trade exception that would cost them 3 times that to use any part of it. So they can do some things here to go out, and it is a very weak market for shooting guards. But I think anything they do this year, you're looking at a stopgap move. This is a team greatly diminished without the loss of obviously one of the 2 Splash Brothers.
For NBA fans out there, maybe Warriors fans watching us, maybe a comparable. Everyone knows his former teammate in Golden State, Kevin Durant, had the same injury. What do we know about Durant's rehab? Maybe to give people in Golden State a little bit of hope.
Well, anybody who's watched Kevin Durant since he's recovered with the Nets, he has looked great by all accounts coming off of his Achilles injury. I'm sure Klay will lean on Kevin Durant. But Klay Thompson has an Achilles injury on top of an ACL tear. So he's going to miss 2 full seasons of NBA competition. And this is one of the most popular players in the league, really one of the preeminent athletes in Bay Area history. This is a huge blow.
Woj, I know you've been waiting for that in addition to everything else going on. But again, the breaking news, Klay Thompson has ruptured his Achilles tendon. He will miss the season. Woj, thank you so much. Okay. This is such a bummer for Klay and everyone involved because the Splash Brothers are so great to watch. But Curry and Klay, they made nearly 4,000 threes as teammates. That is by far the most by a teammate duo in NBA history. That, according to Elias, more than 1,000 ahead of Steph and Draymond. We missed them a lot last season, and again this season. We will be without the Splash Brothers because of Klay Thompson rupturing his Achilles. Switching gears to the NBA, Golden State Warriors guard Klay Thompson suffered a leg injury during a workout Wednesday in Southern California. He's having an MRI this morning. Thompson, playing with several NBA players in LA, felt pain in his calf area, landed on his leg, sources told our Ramona Shelber. And the Warriors are worried it's possibly an Achilles tendon injury, but we are continuing to wait. Our front office insider Bobby Marks with us, as is our NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, we know the MRI is happening this morning. We are awaiting those results. What is the latest you can tell us?
Well, it's exactly that, Matt. He's undergoing that imaging right now in Southern California. His agent, Greg Lawrence, is there. I think some of the team people have come down. And so they're hoping for the best, but they're bracing for the fact that this could be a significant injury.
Hey, we had heard a second ago, and when I was reading, setting up to you, that they fear that it could be an Achilles injury. Is there anything more on that and any type that injury they might be suspecting, Woj?
Well, it's in that lower leg, that calf Achilles area. And so, they're certainly taking it very seriously. And this is a player, Klay Thompson, who missed the entire last season with that torn ACL in his left knee. This is a right leg injury this time.
Yeah, and Bobby, he hit on it there. This is a player that they thought they were going to get back healthy with Steph Curry and hopefully have everything put in place. So now let's just play the game of Klay Thompson is out. What now for the Warriors?
Yeah, I mean, this was the perfect lineup, right? When you look at with Klay there, and now you had James Wiseman. I mean, this is what before the night of the draft. Now this is what their options are going to be. They have this $17.2 million trade exception. It expires on November 23rd. So the clock starts now to be able to use it. You can't sign a player. You can acquire a player in a trade, but it will cost you. Right now they're at $65 million in luxury tax. You use that all, it goes up to about $150 million. So it's about $80 million. You have your $5.7 million tax mid-level exception to go out and get a shooting guard. Out of the free agent groups, this is probably the weakest among shooting guards. You have your own picks in 21 and 22 to maybe try to throw out in a trade. You've got that Minnesota pick, but I would take that off the board in any type of trades. And then you have 5 future seconds that maybe you can add to try to acquire.
Sure.
So the options are there, but as I said, the clock is kind of ticking until Monday when that big trade exception expires.
And we've seen a lot of deals over the last week around the NBA. And I'll tell you what, gentlemen, for a team that was just on the doorstep of being a dynasty, in fact, was considered a dynasty, now to have 2 years in a row with injuries to Klay Thompson and Steph Curry could be debilitating for this franchise. Woj, I know you're going to be busy. We'll bring you out as soon as news warrants during the 2 hours of this Sports Center. Gentlemen, thank you.
Here's what we know about Klay Thompson's leg injury. He was hooping with some fellow players yesterday. He felt some pain in his calf when he landed, and he is currently undergoing an MRI right now to confirm the severity. We don't know much beyond that right now. Sources tell ESPN there is concern within the organization that it could be an Achilles tear. But again, as soon as we know something, we will bring that to you here. So for now, we're going to sort of speculate, and we're going to bring in our NBA analyst, Tim Legler. Should Klay Thompson have a serious injury, what kind of impact would this have on the Warriors going forward?
Well, it's devastating because this is a team, we all found pretty interesting to watch the league this year without a team that's a championship caliber team. It's almost like the Warriors had a year off from the NBA. And with Klay Thompson back, Steph Curry back, Draymond Green obviously still there. They had the number 2 pick. They've added Andrew Wiggins. That was a team that I immediately expected to contend again. I looked at that as probably a top 3 team in the Western Conference in the regular season, and then finding their stride as you got closer to the playoffs and a legitimate threat to win a title. Without Klay Thompson, I don't think there's any way you could take that leap. We'll have to wait and see, obviously. It doesn't sound good right now. I don't think the window is necessarily closed because I still think he can come back down the road. It's just going to be suspended for a little bit. They'll be very good, but I don't think they'll be a championship contender. And I mentioned that 2nd pick in the draft. This is something that's going to be big for them because they went out and got a franchise-type player in the middle in James Wiseman. This is a guy that universally was regarded for about a year as the number 1 pick in the draft. Now, he ends up number 2. Golden State will gladly take him because this is a team that obviously has a void in the middle. He can run the floor all day. He can protect the rim, but he's also pretty good if you throw the ball into the post. So if you want to play that way and slow the game down a little bit, he can also operate there and make a mid-range jump shot. He's an elite-level talent and athlete, and he fills a significant void for the Warriors. Look, this is still going to be a very good team, and they'll be a playoff team in the Western Conference. I just think taking that kind of firepower out, if Klay Thompson misses the year, I don't think you can see a ring coming this year in Golden State.
It would be 2 straight years where Klay Thompson didn't play the NBA, and it just feels like if it was the end of this dynasty, it's a bit of an unceremonious one at that. We appreciate Tim Legler for joining us from a Pottery Barn Christmas display. Thank you so much for breaking down this. It's very impressive what you've got
No
going on
respect
behind you.
for
Is any of that for
Thanksgiving.
sale, or did you want to wait until after Thanksgiving to bring? No, there's no turkey.
No, well, New Jersey basically has canceled Thanksgiving, so we skipped over it. We're going right to Christmas, and it's a lot of work, so I'm getting my use out of it.
So it's a Jersey thing. Okay, well done, Tim Legler. Appreciate it.
Overall, to the Minnesota Timberwolves, the 2019-2020 SEC Freshman of the Year, and led all freshmen nationwide, 19.1 points per game. As for the rest of the top 5, we're waiting for news on Klay Thompson. Warriors stuck with their number 2 pick. Memphis big man James Wiseman headed to the Bay after playing just 3 collegiate games. LaMelo Ball didn't play any college games, most recently played in Australia. Now he's headed to Charlotte as the 3rd overall pick. LaMelo and Lonzo become the first pair of brothers to be taken in the top 5. With the 4th pick, the Bulls surprised some, taking Florida State forward Patrick Williams, who came off the bench last year for the Noles and was named the ACC's 6th Man of the Year. Outstanding defender. Bulls are getting one out of him. And rounding out the top 5, Isaac Okoro going to Cleveland, one of the draft's best athletes. He's the first lottery pick from Auburn since 1988 and the only freshman on the SEC All-Defensive Team. Take a look now at the rest of the top 10. Obi Toppin out of Dayton to the Knicks is getting a lot of attention with where he is headed, a homecoming of sorts for Obi Toppin. I want to bring back in Tim Legler. And Legs, how do you believe Toppin's game will translate to the NBA?
I just think he's a complete player. I would not be shocked if we look back on this draft in about 5 years and he's the best player in it. He doesn't have any weaknesses. He can handle the basketball. He can shoot the ball from deep. He's an elite level athlete. Great offensive rebounder, runs the floor, you name it. He's just built to score in the NBA, and I think he's going to do that right away. I know they have a lot of forwards in New York, but I think they just got the best one of the group in Obi Toppin. I wonder why he slipped to 8, because I saw him going anywhere from 4 to 8. And I think part of it might be because he stuck around a little bit. He's a little bit older. He's 22 years old, which sounds crazy because that's how old guys were coming out of college when I was playing. But now you look at the top picks in the draft, all of these guys were 19 or 20 years old. And I think that might have something to do with why he slipped. But Tom Thibodeau is grateful that he did. He was, I think, pleasantly surprised to see Obi Toppin on the board at number 8. And the Knicks grabbed him. And I think now, if he can hone in on his defense, which Thibodeau will bring out of him, I think this is a guy now that's a really complete modern-day forward that can play the 3 or 4, and he's going to burst on the scene in New York. I think they're going to love the player that they got.
Yeah, Legs, and you mentioned the fact that he is 22 years old, which in basketball circles seems a little bit old because they're typically the one-and-dones. But I tell you what, if you're a franchise, you get a guy that's a little bit more developed, perhaps he can help you immediately. We'll see if that's the case for Obi Toppin. Tim Legler with us this afternoon.
In his calf when he landed, and he is currently undergoing an MRI right now to confirm the severity. Sources tell ESPN there is some concern within the organization. It could be an Achilles tear. Bobby Marks joined you earlier to talk about the Warriors' options.
This was the perfect lineup, right? When you look at with Klay there, and now you had James Wiseman. I mean, this is what before the night of the draft. Now this is what their options are going to be. They have this $17.2 million trade exception. It expires on November 23rd. So the clock starts now to be able to use it. You can't sign a player. You can acquire a player in a trade, but it will cost you. Right now they're at $65 million in luxury tax. You use that all, it goes up to about $150 million. That's about $80 million. You have your $5.7 million tax mid-level exception. You go out and get a shooting guard. Out of the free agent groups, this is probably the weakest among shooting guards. You have your own picks in 21 and 22 to maybe try to throw out in a trade. You've got that Minnesota pick, but I would take that off the board in any type of trades. And then you have 5 future seconds that maybe you can add to try to acquire.
Sure.
So the options are there, but as I said, the clock is kind of ticking until Monday when that big trade exception expires.
Again, we don't know for sure, so all of this is conjecture at this point, but we're going to bring in our NBA analyst, Chiney Ogwumike, to do a little speculating of her own. If it does end up that this is a serious injury for Klay Thompson, Chiney, what impact is that going to have on the Warriors?
Well, first and foremost, as a comeback warrior myself, someone who has dealt with injuries, I'm rooting for Klay Thompson, and I still feel that all hope is not lost because the Warriors, they still have enough firepower with Steph Curry, and they have a nice safety net with Andrew Wiggins as well. And we can't forget that the Warriors, they are a franchise that has made its name by developing and harnessing talent, and I expect the exact same of James Wiseman. I've always said that the one area for this team that could really be exposed, if any, is the rim. And now you have an athletic, mobile rim protector that you can mold to fit your system. I mean, he is 7'1" with a 9'6" reach, 19 years old. So there's still much to really be excited about. And so given the Klay news, I was glad to see that the Warriors, they didn't panic, don't panic, stay with your vision, especially with that number 2 overall pick.
It was definitely a bright spot yesterday, and that terrible news that maybe one half of the Splash Brothers could be down for good for the second straight year. I'm going to go in.